Hello and welcome everybody to Building Strategic Networking for Introverted Leaders. Now I'm trialing out a different format with my videos, so I'm doing it in portrait rather than landscape. So do let me know whether you prefer it this way, whether you prefer it in landscape. And the reason why I'm doing it in portrait is because I know a lot of you access it from your mobile phones, so you may be able to view it better when you're viewing it from your phone. So welcome to Building Strategic Networks for Introverted Leaders. And whilst we're waiting for people to come online, please share in the comments which part of the world you're joining from today. I love to know where people are coming. We usually have a global audience on these lives. And this is the last one for 2024. I can't believe that we're coming to the end of 2024 and 2025 is just a few weeks away, less than 3 weeks away. And I hope you're all set for the season. Whether you celebrate it or not, I hope you are looking to have some downtime, some reflection time. So the objective of today's session is about empowering you with practical strategies for building meaningful, impactful networks that align with your authentic strengths and leadership goals. And so that I know that there are people online, because there's often a delay in me seeing who's online, just let me know that you can see me, that you can hear me, and where you're joining from today. Oh, greetings, Mark from Colorado. Looking forward to having you on the session. Hi, Kathleen from Quebec. Great to have you here. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Carol Stewart. I'm an executive career leadership coach. I specialize in coaching introverted leaders, particularly introverted women leaders, to lead with confidence, influence, and impact. I'm also a speaker, trainer, author of the book Quietly Visible as well. And the reason why I focus on introverted leaders is because the corporate environment is often very much focused and favored towards extroversion. And it's often the case of he or she who shouts the loudest are the ones that get heard, that get the recognition, that get the rewards and get ahead, and the quieter ones often get overlooked. And so I'm going to be covering today how introverted leaders can approach networking in ways that feel natural, strategic, and valuable. And because networking is very much a career development tool, it's very important when it comes to sort of developing your career, developing your leadership, having influence, building connections. Many people who are introverted don't particularly enjoy networking because the environment of networking is one where it's often a case of a lot of small talk, people working the room, or that's what it can feel like. And people who are introverted often prefer depth of conversation to quantity of a conversation, and don't particularly like making small talk. So just out of interest, how many of you regularly network? And please share in the chat, in the comments, how many of you regularly network? I'd love to know. So please share how many of you regularly network. And so looking at some common myths about networking, when it comes to networking, a lot of people have this misconception that introverts don't like networking, or that it's only for extroverts, but that is not the case. Or that it requires constant socializing, which introverted people don't enjoy. And that's not necessarily the case. Some introverts can be very great at networking, and oftentimes why people who are introverted don't enjoy networking is because the networking environment can be overstimulating. So there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of activity going on around them, which can be overstimulating. Some may lack confidence when it comes to networking, but for me, I enjoy networking, but I can find it overstimulating because there's often a lot of noise, and particularly events where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of talking, lots of different people talking very loud. I can find that overstimulating, and what happens is being in that sort of environment too long can feel draining. It can drain my energy, and you may experience that as well. And so that's why it's important to, if you know you've got a lot of networking going on, that you build in time to recharge if you're finding that it depletes your energy. And so if you are someone who doesn't particularly enjoy networking, or as one particular coaching client likened it to a meat market, then reframing how you view networking can make it so much more an enjoyable experience. So one particular client who was a lawyer, and networking was in terms of business development, and she likened it to a meat market. She said that she just felt that people were just trying to sell their wares. Framing how she saw it, so rather than looking at it as a meat market and then just feeling there, a way of in getting to know people, developing connections, and if she found that she had something to help those people, taking the conversation outside the networking event and letting them know how her organization could help them. So it's about reframing it to look at developing connections and then making those connections more meaningful. Hi, Katrina. We've got Katrina who's joining us from the UK. It's lovely to have you here. So sometimes just by reframing it in that way, as relationship building, that can help to change how you feel about it. And rather than looking at it as superficial interactions, because that's something that introverted people typically don't enjoy, is superficial interactions, looking at it as relationship building can make it seem more meaningful. And introverts excel at deep connections. We're well known for that. Active listening and meaningful one-on-one relationships. And so by understanding that that is what you're doing can help the whole process to be a much more enjoyable experience. And so when it comes to being sort of strategic about your networking and having a strategy for it, first of all, get clear about your purpose and goals for networking. So why network? What benefits will you get from networking? And there are so many benefits to be gained from networking. I, in my coaching business, have gained lots of opportunities as a result of networking, made some really great connections. Some have become personal friends. And even prior to starting my coaching business, when I was a leader in an organization, and I got my last promotion whilst I was working as a leader in an organization as a result of networking. I'd been at a conference in another part of geographical location, and there was somebody there who was a senior leader in another part of the organization, and she told me that she was going to be going on maternity leave the following year, and that an opening would come up while she was on maternity leave. And it was through networking that I became aware that this opportunity was going to come up. And so what I did was I thought, well, I want to be there and in with a chance for that opportunity. So what I would start to do was position myself for it. So I saw that a position came up in that particular region at the same level that I was at. So I applied for it and made a sideways move. I was successful and made a sideways move. And then whilst I was doing that particular role, I then started to position myself by taking a lead on particular initiatives, raising my visibility and profile within the area. And then when the position became advertised, by that time, people had got to know me, they'd got to like me, they'd got to trust me. And when it came to the interview, I'd sort of done a lot of that legwork before I went into the room. And I got the position. It was quite a sort of challenging interview. I got the position based on merit, but all that activity that I had done leading up to it and the networking that I'd done all played a part. So think about why you network, why it's beneficial to you, what you can gain from networking. So is it career growth, or is it learning opportunities? Is it you're looking for mentors, or you're wanting to mentor people, or is it that you're wanting to gain industry or sector insights? And identify key people that you want to connect with. And so think about those events that you're going to and identify who is going to be there, and then identify those individuals that you want to connect with, or the roles that you would like to connect with, the roles that those people do that you would like to connect with. Thinking about what your goals are and what your values are. So make a list of key people that you want to connect with, and think about then that as part of your strategy in terms of how you can start to develop those relationships, those connections and those relationships. And when it comes to networking, leveraging your strengths is quite key. And so play to those strengths, highlight your listening skills. People love to feel that they are being listened to, that they are being heard. So, and introverts are known for being great listeners. So listen to what people are saying, and ask thoughtful questions and show a genuine interest. And if you find it difficult to start conversations, have what I call some conversation starters up your sleeves. And these are open questions that you can have that begin what, where, how, when, who, and ask an open question, listen to what the other person says, and pick up on what they said, and then ask another question, open question, and put those listening skills into practice, those skills of empathy, because introverts are known for being empathetic. Listen to what they're saying and then ask more questions, and then that will help to get the conversation going, and it will help it to be a more meaningful conversation as well, rather than just superficial small talk. And when you are thinking about networking, identify what your preferred formats are as well. So networking isn't just about going to a large event with lots of different people. There are many ways in which you can network. So think about whether it's one-to-one conversations that you have, if it's a virtual event, and speaking to people and getting to know people at virtual events through the chat, even if it's written communication, emails or LinkedIn messengers. So identifying those ways which feel more comfortable to you can be very beneficial. And so out of curiosity, and please share in the comments, what sort of formats do you enjoy? But do you prefer having one-to-one conversations, or do you prefer going to particular themed events or sector events where there's a particular purpose for the event, or it's about a particular theme, and then being able to have conversations around those? And to give you an example how one-to-one conversations can be beneficial, I had a coaching client who despised networking, that was wanting to change jobs, do something different. And one of the things that I encouraged them to do was to utilize LinkedIn to reconnect with people that they had connected with before, whether it was through previous work or people that they knew on LinkedIn, to reach out to them and to arrange to have a catch up with them, which they did. So some of these were virtual catch-ups, some of them were meeting up for coffee. And one particular person that they met up with turned out to be a non-executive director on the board of an organization that she'd applied for a position at. And because they'd reconnected in this way, this person was then able to go back and talk about her and talk about how good she was, basically. And she, as a result, well, not directly as a result, but she went for the interview and she got the position. And having somebody being able to vouch for her would have helped in terms of them sort of thinking about as being part of that organization. Got a comment here. I enjoy one-on-one catch-ups, lunch, coffee at events. I look for smaller group discussions to allow easier connections. So, and that is great. Thanks for sharing that, Mark. And so it's identifying what works best for you. But as I mentioned, we typically think networking means you've got to go and speak to lots of different people, but it doesn't have to be that way. Networking is about developing relationships, making connections, developing relationships, and then nurturing those relationships. And when you view it in that way, it can make it seem a lot more easier, a lot more comfortable, a lot more authentic. And so develop a networking approach that aligns with your style. And if it's something that you're not used to doing or you're not comfortable with, start small. Begin with people that you know and trust, so colleagues or LinkedIn connections or people that you've worked with in the past, people who you have maybe worked with or have left your organization. Just start, whether it's having those one-to-one catch-ups like Mark does, just meeting up for lunch, meeting up for coffee, and then start those conversations. Talk about what you're doing, show an interest in what they're doing, identify how you can support them. So it's not just a one-way thing. It's not just about what you can get. It's about a two-way connection. And as you start to build on that and you get more comfortable with it and more confident with it, watch how your connections and your network starts to grow. And when it comes to going to networking events, planning for them is very beneficial. So if you know you've got a conference coming up or some sort of industry event that you're going to where you want to connect with people, you're wanting to whether it's you get ahead in your career, whatever it is, preparing before you go, thinking about the outcomes that you want to get from that particular event, setting yourself goals for interaction, and thinking about the questions that you can ask means that when you actually are in the event, you're better prepared. And then after the event, it's about how you stay connected with people. So it could be that you set up a simple routine for maintaining connections. Is it that you follow up immediately after, connect with them on LinkedIn, share some useful resources or links to whether it's videos or articles that they would find beneficial, and think about what sort of frequency you want to maintain contact with them, and put that into play. And on my podcast, the Quietly Visible podcast, this morning, I had a conversation with Jo Demers, and she is a co-host of the Crowdy Files podcast, and she's a seasoned executive assistant. And she shared her methodology that she uses for networking. And I think it was, I thought it was a very good framework to have that I'll share with you, and I will give Jodie the credit, Jodie Mears. So do check her out here on LinkedIn and check out her Crowdy Files podcast. And she calls it her 3-2-1 framework. And that is, and she said that just putting this framework into practice transformed her networking. So she will, her 3-2-1 is about speaking to 3 people, then having deeper conversations with 2 people, and following up with 1. And by putting this into practice, she said it took away a lot of the pressure that she had as an introvert about going networking, and it has actually transformed her networking. So Jodie Mears' 3-2-1 framework is a great tool to have to help you to develop your networking. So that's about it from me in terms of sharing how you can develop your networks, how you can build strategic networks and network. And I will be open for questions, and so please do share your questions in the comments. And whilst I'm waiting for comments to come through, I just want to talk to you about a challenge that I'm doing starting the 6th of January. It's called the 5-Day Mind Cleanse Challenge, and this is for you if you're somebody who experiences self-doubt, if you feel that you need a confidence boost, you want to improve your confidence, self-confidence for 2025, then do join my 5-Day Mind Cleanse Challenge. If you scan the QR code, which is at the top corner of this video, you can find that more details about it there. And so starting the 6th of January, each day for 5 days, we come online for a 30-minute call, and I will go through an exercise with you that will help you to just challenge self-limiting beliefs, to change your thinking, and to overcome self-doubt, and to be more confident, so that you can start 2025 with that confident self, that courageous self, with that self-belief. So do check that out. Scan the QR code or go to 5daymindcleanse.eventbrite.co.uk, or do an internet search for the 5-Day Mind Cleanse Challenge, Carol Stewart. So any questions? Please let me have your questions. Marcus said that he loves the 3-2-1 framework. Yes, I loved it as well. When she sort of just dropped it casually into the conversation, I said, oh, that's quite an amazing way to, an approach to take to it, because it's not just a numbers game, and as people who are introverted, we tend to build meaningful connections on a smaller basis, whether it's one-to-one, whether it's smaller groups. Anybody got any questions? And if you haven't got any questions, share in the comments what you're going to do to develop your network and be more strategic about networking in 2025 in the comments. What will you do differently going forward? And for those of you that will be watching on the replay, I will come back and keep my eye out for the comments. So if you do have questions, then still feel free to leave your questions if you watch on the replay. I'll give it a few more seconds because sometimes there's a delay between comments, people typing in their comments and them actually coming through, and see if there are any questions. Can be anything that you've got about networking or anything else. Right, it doesn't look like there are any questions, so I will say thank you everybody for coming online, and like I said, this is the last one for 2024. I look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Enjoy the festive season whether you celebrate Christmas or whether you're just taking a break. Have a good one. Bye. Someone else who said that they're going to, Jodie has been well received. So bye everybody, and thank you for coming online.